Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar that show that talks about all things essence, where we sit around the campfire and we share our stories of connection with our divine selves, with mystical experiences, with openings into that greater knowing of ourselves beyond this third dimensional reality, beyond this body. And it's really the land of woo over here in Soul Nectar Show, and I like it that way. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird. And I welcome you to join us today. I love helping people take those first few steps into woo, where they can really start to express themselves and realize that all those little signs and signals they thought they were receiving in their life, that they stepped over because they thought, well, maybe I didn't see what I saw, or maybe I did, it was just in my mind, or maybe I just no, that was a sign. Like, that is actually important to listen to. And so I love helping people navigate those first few steps to start trusting their inner voice and their inner vision and their inner knowing. And I love to invite guests on the show who can help me in that mission to inspire you to stop being so timid about your woo. And so today I'm really excited because we've got a wonderful guide on our show today, Lumari. Welcome, Lumari.
Hello. So happy to be here.
Thank you for being with us. So Lumari is a gifted, internationally acclaimed intuitive life coach, psychic consultant, divine channel, visionary wisdom teacher, and transformational healer and energy master. She's also a best-selling author. She's written the books Alawashka, Language of Creation, and also Akashic Records, Collective Keepers of Divine Expression. She has been for over 25 years doing this work, and she's shown clients all over the world how to celebrate their soul purpose, follow their highest destiny, and fulfill their dreams and live inspired. And she also has a podcast, Cosmic Coffee Break. Ooh, Cosmic Coffee Break. I like that. Brings enlightening meditations. Yes, let's do it. Vibrations to lift your life in the world. So I understand from talking with you, Lumari, that you actually came here woke. I was asleep, so I had earth amnesia. I had the I am an earthling experience for the first part of my life until I realized, oh, not exactly true. So you actually came here knowing who you are in truth. Tell us more about that.
Well, and knowing who I am in truth kind of evolved because as we know ourselves, we get more and more evolved as well. I remember from my crib where I had a beautiful nightlight that had a Donald Duck head on it. And it would shine Donald Duck's head onto my ceiling. It was like a nightlight for when I was, in my crib, right? And I would hear divine beings talking with me. And, as a little one, it was like, oh, the angels and Donald Duck and everybody else talking with me. And they would explain things to me like I was an adult. As you come into form, there are many different things you will discover about the human race. And they would start talking about things, and they would talk about like ancient history and the beings who came to the planet and all that other stuff. And I would listen to it, and it just was normal for me. It's like my mother used to joke that I didn't have a first word. I had a first paragraph.
That is funny. You didn't have a first word, you had a first paragraph.
Yes. I just started talking. That was it. At like 9 months old, I guess that's physiologically, I guess when it all clicks in, I just started talking. That was that. And being aware in that age, there were a lot of different things that my joke is that I really felt that what people were doing was trying to teach me how to be polite. Because, little girls don't say that. Little girls don't say that. Little girls don't say, right? It was kind of like that. I didn't realize that I wasn't being impolite. I was shocking the crap out of people.
Yeah, because they were like, holy crap, how do you know that?
Yes, because nobody really talked about those things. So, and it was like an ongoing thing. Now, it wasn't scolding. I wasn't like punished or anything like that, because I found out like many years later that my grandmother was a healer. but nobody talked about that either. It was like,
Hiding
it
the
was just,
woo, hiding the woo,
yes.
Lumari. Like,
Well,
why?
and I think it was just a comfort level because it didn't seem to be judgmental. Like, it didn't seem like I was bad or wrong. It's just like, no, darling, you just don't do that. And I'm like, like, oh yeah, just like, you don't eat with your fork and your knife and your spoon all at once. You just pick one, put it in your mouth. That's cool, right? And even when I was a little kid, I would look at my friends and I would say, no, don't do that. Your mother's going to punish you. You're going to have to stay in bed for a week, and they would look at me, and then, did you tell my mother? Like, no, I told you she was going to punish you. And are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, by the time I was 7, like, they would joke with me and they would go, oh, teacher, what's going to happen
Yeah,
today?
I had a similar experience where they were like, did you tell on me? I'm like, no, I just saw the future, like, seemed
Exactly.
obvious to me. If you do that thing, you're going to get in trouble.
Yes. And it was like, so there were lots of different circumstances that I had that I didn't realize were unusual. I mean, I remember a little boy, one of the things that really, you have things that stick in your mind and then things that you just did. And there's a little boy and he had braces on both legs and he was in his, carriage. And I just had to go over and touch his legs and say, you will be better soon. And, like I could get away with it because I was 4, right? And it was like I could feel the energy going through my hands to his legs. He looked up at me with like sparkly eyes because I was not just because of the healing energy, because he knew I was telling him the
Yeah.
truth. Like, when you have that recognition, like someone speaking truth to you.
Yeah.
And I had lots of different prophetic dreams. I would astral project over my bed and have conversations with me hovering over myself. And then I would talk to myself while I was sleeping on the bed and like, I heard different languages that I didn't know were like sacred languages. I just knew that they were there rolling through. And I really was completely awake and absolutely unaware that I was.
Yeah, because you're having this experience and you're wondering, well, like, this is normal. Why doesn't everybody else understand this? Or how you could read people. Like, I could always like feel people's energy, and I knew if they were telling me the truth or not. Like, I could feel the energy, and then I could also feel like their feelings. Like, if they were pissed at me, I knew it. Like, I knew it without even being in the same room with them. And I could always be like, are you upset with me? And they'd be like, oh no, and they would try to lie about it or whatever, and I always knew. I was like, no, it's not true.
Yeah, and I knew the agreements that my family had with me before I came to the planet, and then they had some of them had changed them, right? They decided like we were actually not going to fulfill that, and I would look at them and go, okay, I can't say this, but why the hell are you doing that? You said, but I didn't say it to them, but in my mind it's like, you promised you were going to do this, and I'm here now, and you're not doing it. It's like all of these different things that I would know. I mean, I just knew them. Like I could go into the woods and know that if I stood by a certain rock, all the minnows in that little pond would come over, and I could just like look at them and play with them, and and I knew that that I could stand in a certain place, and I would know that the pheasants would come, the wild pheasants would come, and it was just how it was. As I got older, then the psychic stuff became even more profound. And so instead of just being teacher and weirdo, then they started calling me other things, but I always thought that they would call me.
Oh, that's good. You didn't take offense to it. A lot of people take offense.
Funny. No, it's just a funny thing. I think because there was like a place of naivete in it, because it was always happening. So like when people said, oh, you are weird, and I would go, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm aware now that I'm different than you.
And it was like, it didn't seem like it wasn't like a bad word they were calling me, right? I just like, well, I am kind of weird. Yeah, you're right. And it was just like, that was kind of how it was. And I would see things, but I learned after a while you don't tell somebody, you better be careful because you could fall down the stairs and hurt yourself. People don't want you to say those things to them. That's just how it is. You keep your mouth shut. But I didn't know that that was psychic, or I just thought it was polite. Like, until I went to college, I just thought that was just polite. You just don't say, everybody knows, you just don't say. And then I found out in college, no, that's not true. Nobody knows that. I mean, there are a few people who do know, but it's not general.
Yeah, the general experience on the planet is that people are not as aware as they certainly have the capacity to be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think one of the first like defining moments in like thinking of my gift as a tool was like my best friend in college handed me a tarot deck. And she said, you know, I think this would be really good because you don't know, but you're telling people their future, and you're showing them spiritual things that they don't know about. And I opened it up and I knew every card and what they meant.
Wow.
And I said, oh, this is, oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, what a beautiful, these drawings are so beautifully done. You know, when they did them in the ancient times, they were much more rudimentary. And she's looking at me going, I know I could have gotten this. I said, no, I'm going to get a book and see what they mean. She said, you don't need the book. It was like that. So I've had those kind of experiences. Happily now, I can look back at them and know that I did break through a whole bunch of different things, like in my path to like really recognizing what's going on, not only the intuitive stuff and the, you know, the transcendent things that were happening and being able to visit other places even though I was in the living room, those kind of things. I mean, I knew later that those were really unusual, but then the experience of it, which is a real gift, is like I had this naivete. So when I turned around and looked at it later, there was a sense of such wonder about all of the stuff that I did that I had read in books and didn't know I was doing it because how they described it in the book was not how I felt it. It was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, and
I'm already doing it.
You had an experience like that where you went to go learn about conscious channeling, right? Where you actually went to go do that. Talk about that a little bit.
I went to this beautiful workshop. Friends of mine had told me about this spiritual teacher, Dolores Ashcroft Norwicki, who's like from England, and she taught conscious channeling and all of these other things. And so she would lead you to, one of the things she did was lead you into a past life. So we had a meditation. She had people at your feet, people on your side, people up at your head, all holding sacred space for you while you went into the meditation. And I saw myself as this beautiful Native American priestess and medicine woman. And I was picking, you know, beautiful herbs, and it was such a sacred experience. And I was really moved because I could feel myself there. And then she came out of the meditation and she looked around and she asked me to describe my meditation. So I started to say, I said, I could see myself in the forest. I had these beautiful buckskin beaded dress on. And then the woman behind me who was standing at my head said, and your moccasins, they were amazing. The beading on them was incredible. And when your foot touched the ground, it was like it was thunder in the earth. And I'm like, what? And then the other woman who was on one side of me said, yes. And then you stood in the stream and you pulled up those sacred herbs. And the herbs were actually saying thank you to you because they knew they were going to be in ceremony. They were telling out loud everything that I had seen in my vision. And it was like the strangest experience for me because I didn't get it. And I'm like trying to figure out, maybe she said that out loud. And like I was just in a stance and I didn't hear her leading that. And she looked at me, she said, you don't know what's going on, do you? And I said, I have no clue. She said, you are a conscious channel and you brought everybody into the meditation and into that lifetime with you. They saw you. They saw you. They were part of the ceremony you had in that lifetime when you were bringing the sacred leaves out that you were going to bring to the ceremony that you were going to create. And I'm like, she said, you didn't come here to learn how to be a channel. You came here to learn
Yeah,
that you
you
are
are
one.
one. And so later on you found out like what you're channeling too. Tell us about what it is that you channel because you have a unique gift that you're bringing to the earth.
Yes, I channel the being Alawashka. That's Alawashka. She is the original frequency, voice, language of creation. And so, out of the way that I love to describe it, is the divine consciousness, which is the all. When that was ready to create, the voice of creation that came through in order to do that, so there would be no separation in the all, was Alawashka. So it is like the voice, the sacred geometry, the language, the frequencies, the multidimensional energies that create everything from the allness that comes to us. Because when we look at creation, it actually is pieces. They're individual things, just like we're individual. And that's what I channel, and that's what I came to the earth to bring.
So how are you sharing that gift now? Like what does that look like for you? How does that manifest? I mean, how did you even realize that you did that? Like where did that come from?
That came from a meditation where I was in meditation. I was talking with a friend, and I just said, okay, listen, I just need to ask, and I don't remember the exact question, but I have it written down somewhere. And it was like, I want to know or show me the full majesty that brings forth creation in all its beauty. And it was like kind of like that. Like, I want to know all of creation. And what I heard was, I am Alawashka. I am that which brings creation forth. And I have been with you, and you have been with me since creation. I'm like, okay. This is a bigger answer than I expected.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. These answers you get and you go, really? Is that so? Like, you know what to do with that information.
Well, and it's not anything I would have made up on my
Yeah.
own.
I mean, who makes up that?
Exactly. Exactly. And I kept on asking because I love asking good questions. I really feel that it's not necessarily the answer you get, but when you're in that state of a brilliant question, like a meaty question, one that isn't a yes or no answer, right?
Yeah.
But like opens wisdom for you. And it was like, oh, well, this is really interesting. There's like frequencies here, and I can see sacred geometry, but it's not working the same way as normal sacred geometry works. This is a whole other thing. And I can see timelines, but these timelines go out and then they loop back. Now, I wouldn't think a timeline would loop, but like these are all the things that are going on while I'm in this present thing. I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm smelling, I'm feeling, and it's like, oh yeah, this is how you're starting off. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and there'll be timelines for this. And I'm like, okay, there's no arguing with this, not that I wanted to, but like the immensity and the truth of it and the resonance of it, I'm like, yeah, oh, all right. I knew this before, but now I know it. Now, like in this body, in this time. This is the language I heard when I was in my crib, but now I know what it is.
That's the thing I'm talking about is like those awarenesses coming through and knowing that you have when you get the awareness. It's like, no, I know this. This is something I just know. I don't know how I know it, but I know it. And that's all that really matters. And it resonates as truth. And then you have to fearlessly bring it forward. So how is that process of you fearlessly bringing it forward? Because that's the part I'm in right now with,
Yes.
these downloads around the second wave. It's like, okay, so for me, I had to do lots of little tests. I like testing it out on people, like go in your divine spark and are you part of the second wave? Because I've got to test and poke at it. So what's your process like?
Well, I have several different ones, luckily. So I wrote a book about it, and the book is like two parts, and I wrote it over 10 years ago. And the first part is how our earth came to be and the path of it as us as humans. Like the beings who came here, the ones who were invited, the ones who weren't invited and came anyway, the ones who created the history, the ones who created the history of struggle, which wasn't necessarily meant to be on this planet to begin with. This planet did not ask for struggle. So other beings came here and created it. And now we have to deal with that. And then the second part of the book is about creation, about the frequencies of creation and the words of creation, how to stand in that energy and know that we are fully participating in creation. And the more aware you are, the more you are aware of how you are creating. When I received that, that was like a whole other thing, because then it was more articulated. No, it's channeling, but when I'm channeling, they're channeling for me and they're channeling for everybody. So it's like I'm getting taught, but so is everybody else. But I might be articulating things that I know, but it's being phrased in a way that's completely different. And one of the things that's so brilliant about ayahuasca is there are so many amazing frequencies there that even when you read the book, those frequencies are in the book. I have had people say to me, I read 3 pages and I had to put it down and go lie down because the energy was like healing everything in me. And it's like, I just read it. I mean, I wasn't doing anything. And other people who like their ritual is to read it once a year because the frequencies in you change every time you connect with the frequencies. You get more expanded. And I have beautiful workshops that I work. It's like a 3-phase thing where you get to like connect with the energies and feel them. And then there is a healing training that goes with it. And then there's a mastery training that goes with it. And in a little while, I'm going to come out with a deck of cards as well.
That's awesome.
You can play. Yeah.
People can heal this is like learning how to connect with the energy to heal yourself, to invite that healing to come through you.
Yes, and it's creation. So there's a place in it where it's not focusing on what is in the way. It's focusing on what you're next creating. So if I look at it in a health model, right? So you might just have headaches. If you're focusing on healing the headache, then you're focusing on the headache. If you're focusing on creation, then you're focusing on fluidity and ease and calm and gentleness in your head.
There you go.
Bring those frequencies in.
This is a really important thing because I actually I help people bridge between the kind of standard negative way of thinking that we have on this planet into like a new possibility. And so I because I've had to learn this journey myself through many teachers and guidance on how to break, because spider medicine is a real thing. Like it really could wrap you up in a big ball of web and tighten you up just like a little fly in your own web. And so I did that to myself previously. And so I learned about this power of the word and how your word and your intention and your emotion all can totally create your reality in front of you, especially given your predilection with your human design type to want to do certain things, and then to be inspired to do certain things. And so to help with that, I use certain language like, up until now, I've been doing or thinking this particular way, even if I'm still thinking that way, because up until now is now. Now is now. So I am still, up until now, I've been thinking this way. And now I'm in the process, and this is a trick I learned from some teachers of mine. Now I'm in the process of moving forward. And I love that because it's liberated me completely since I learned it, for being in the process of the new thing. Because sometimes if you do the affirmations, they don't actually work because you're still in the old paradigm of thinking, but you're not admitting it. And so your mind just totally rejects the new thing because it's like, that's not true. But in the process of is always true.
I have another way of looking at that exact same thing. So, and it's a practice you can listen to on my Cosmic Coffee Break podcast. Okay. It's called That's Not Necessarily True.
Yeah. Injecting doubt into it.
So when you have like, it's like this, I can't do this, blah, 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 all of those things, you speak to yourself and you say, that's not necessarily true. And what that does is it confuses your brain. Why? Because you can't argue with that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
You can't say, yes, it is, I have this, because it's like, it's not necessarily true. Well, okay. And your brain starts to get, and your thoughts and your mind starts to get a little confused. It may attempt to argue again. It might say, well, that technically I still do feel but that's not necessarily true. And it stops. And then it goes into neutral, because it's not going to argue with anything that it really can't have a position.
Yeah, oh, that's so good, because it wants to be right.
Yes, of course. And that's why it's not a bad thing that your brain does that, or your mind does that, right? Because there's certain things that you have to like argue back and forth to find where you're going in it, right? I mean, if you're looking at a map and you know you have to go to this particular town, then your brain has to tell you, your mind has to tell you, no, don't take the left is wrong, you have to follow this road. Now, we're not talking about like a psychic experience where you're going to go on a different journey, right? We're talking about like a specific. If you tell your mind that's not necessarily true, after 2 times, it just goes, oh, and it lets go.
Okay. Yeah, you created enough doubt that it's like, oh, maybe it's not true. And then maybe let's start looking for ways that it might not be true. That's actually pretty cool, to disengage the mind. Whatever way you got to disengage the mind from its pathway, because what we're talking about here, listen, we still have like at least 85% of the planet that's sort of involved in the collective agreement, the collective consciousness, and that's operating in a certain way. There's a certain way that it's been operating, and it's starting to open up and expand. But where we're talking about here on this show is way out there. It's like this other, right? And so in order to open to this, you've got to dismantle the identification and attachment to what you thought was true for however long you thought it was true for, so that you can expand into the possibility of opening these other new possibilities that could be way more exciting to experience if you were to allow it to happen. And if you would believe that inner voice and that inner vision that you have inside of you, and that inner knowing, to give that more credence. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yes, and I like to do things that make me laugh. And that sentence, right? Well, when I said that, when I first found that sentence for myself, I started to laugh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so funny, because I could feel it in me, right? I said, that's not necessary. I could feel myself smiling when I said it, and I could feel my mind going, huh? And it was even funnier. And it's like, oh my gosh, this totally works. It's one sentence. It shifted the energy. I know I work with like very, very vast frequencies, so I know I put those frequencies in there, but the sentence made me laugh. And laughter, laughter and joy breaks up the rigidity of like beliefs and negativity and everything else.
Yeah, it does. It breaks up the energy, because it's actually a stuck, crusty energy. That's part of that crust that gets around your heart, that I don't know, that crust of personality crust, we'll call it that, personality crust. The one that wants everything to stay the same so it knows what's happening. That is no longer where we're living, people. We're not living there anymore.
No. Thank goodness.
It's starting to get exciting up in here.
Yeah, and being able to bring in the ayahuasca frequencies. It's I just keep on calling ayahuasca brilliant, because it just is beyond, even though I'm the one to bring it here. And I can embody those frequencies, and everywhere I go, those frequencies are with me, and they're beaming out and shining out to everywhere. What's brilliant about it, again, there's lots of brilliant, right, is that for each person and each circumstance, it is unique to that person, even if the energy is the same. So even if the matrix is the same, it connects with you in a different way. And if you come back to that same energy, since it's already connected with you before, you're already changed. and that energy is changed for your next aspect of being. And when you look at it, it's like, I'm a flower, now I'm a better flower. Now I'm a really better flower. Oh my God, now I'm a really better flower. It's like it just automatically does that in an honoring, beautiful, sacred way. And it amazes me. Those things amaze me.
Yeah, I think
Even
that
though I'm carrying it.
it's amazing. Yeah, it is amazing. And there's a little interplay and dance, at least for me. Like I know that, like for example, I know I channel rainbow light. That's one of my jobs. The Carol Shamans mentioned it one time and you might be our rainbow keeper. And I was like,
Ooh.
and I was like, I don't know about that. I did a lot of denial of things because I had earth amnesia. So unlike you, I had this like kind of like tussle with my ego about it. And I was like, man, why did I hide this from myself? If I'm a rainbow keeper, why did I make it such a secret? Why didn't I show up knowing? And then I had like all these questions and I finally was like, well, I don't really know the answer to any of that. So I'm just going to have to trust that I did it for a good reason. And as I went on this path, like it's just obvious now. Like, yeah, I channel rainbow light like all the time. That's what I do. I'm like waterfalls of rainbow light, and everyone's like, I love the rainbow light. Like, let's have some more. And so I just keep channeling the
Yes.
rainbow light down. I love it. And I'm like, okay, well, then I guess I am a rainbow keeper. But I had to
Yes.
experience first and know it. Like I had to like have enough people tell me like, yeah, I love that. And I'm like, oh, I guess, okay, then I guess I am. So now I'm okay with it.
Yes. Well, and the affirmation confirmation is really important, because when I heard ayahuasca within me, and again, it was like multidimensional. So there were visual things and fireworks and words and sacred geometry and energies all moving at once. And when I heard it, like, of course, my first thing was, really? And then it's like, no, wait, this is a whole experiential thing. And oh, this makes sense about me being an artist and creating from that place and writing poetry that whenever I read it, and people would start to sob. And it was like, I wasn't thinking of myself as a poet. It was just, this is what I did for relaxation. Now I know encoded in my poetry is all of this healing and vibrational energy. But it was like, oh, now I understand. Just like you in the rainbow. Now I understand this creation force where I could sit with someone and all of a sudden they're getting these brilliant ideas. Because creation's there and the ideas are creation.
Well, and that is teaching me so much in this moment, because that also is dropping in for me. Yeah, you know what, people, you just got to accept who you are. Like whatever the gift is that you've been given, you just got to accept that that's your beautiful gift to bring to the world, and don't worry about it. Like I always thought the ego operated in the sense of like self-aggrandizement, like making you better than everybody else. But I've recently learned that actually it also works the other way. It also works in self-deprecation and making you like disown your gifts and making you go, well, who are you, to have that? Or, it also works in that way. So be
Right.
mindful that it's very slippery, and so you just got to comfort it and be like, it's okay. Don't worry. Like it's just a matter of fact. Like, this is it. This is what came through. Bam. This is who I am. It's okay.
Yes, and some of that ego that we differentiate really helps us navigate.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah.
It's really good to know that you're not the rock in the road. You actually want to avoid it because you'll fall down.
Yeah. It's
It
important.
helps you know that.
It helps us navigate this third dimension.
Yes.
So, and it's helpful when it goes along and it says, okay, so this is like, everything's important. I also want to say that I feel like everybody's got a sacred gift. Everybody's, this planet is filled up with wonderful beings. Some beings have been in a cycle of karma and suffering on the planet for like lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, and they've been asking for help, like somebody else come in who hasn't been infected by this and help us, right? And so we're here like, okay, great, now we have people coming in to help, and it's going to change now. Like you were talking about, get it back to the way it was intended to be, which is the Garden of Eden. Like, this is an exciting place to be.
Yeah. And the wisdom and the beauty is still here. It wasn't gone.
No, it's all here.
It was just a cloud that was created for a variety of different reasons, which don't matter anymore. And we're here to do healing, clearing, joyful reverberation so that Gaia can show off again. And we can receive her wisdom, and we can connect and receive the wisdom from each other. And we come in with different gifts for a reason. Because, first of all, because it's really fabulous to have this many gifts in one place. I mean,
it's pretty awesome.
and also, some of us are more comfortable or more inspired or resonate with certain aspects. The ultimate creation frequencies are the same, because that's how creation came into being. But you may favor certain aspects. So you may favor the more natural environment of it. You may favor like being in the beauty of nature and everything else. Or you may favor hanging out in a cave for a really long time by yourself. And all of those different, or you may want the collective around you, or you may want just a few, or there's all the experiences are here and they're rich. And so you, Carrie, and I, and other people, we bring it in a different way so that nobody has to go, well, I don't know, I don't like that one, I guess I can't play. No, we're all here to play.
We're all here to play, and now's the time to play. And that's why the guides on my book are like, hey, we got to close that chapter on that human suffering stuff. Like, we're not here. We're changing it now. Like, switcho, change-o, upside down world, right side up world. Here we go.
Yeah. Yes, it's time.
It's time. So, well, great. Well, gosh, how can people play with you? Do you have a free gift for the audience or a way that they can connect with you?
Well, I have a really easy gift for everybody, but I want you to go to my website. It's lumari.com, Lumar.com. I forgot the I. Naturally, because we were talking about ego before, right?
Yeah, I forgot. That's so funny.
Oh, too bad. I know. The free gift is a personal sacred space meditation. So for everybody who's an empath, for everybody who is psychic, for everybody who's a healer, for everybody playing in that area, we all absorb the energy around us unless you've learned how not to. So you walk into some place, and if somebody's had an argument, you feel it. You may not know you feel it until later. Like, and I've experienced that until my husband Peter told me I was doing it. It was like really funny. We drove by someplace and I started crying, and I told him the story of why I was crying. And he said, "Stop absorbing other people's energy. It's not yours." And I'm like, oh, I got to do something about this. I never like paid attention to it, because as an empath and the psychic, like you feel into all those things. This is a beautiful personal sacred space meditation where you still feel the beauty of your being. You do not feel separated from the world or the people around you. You just don't absorb the negativity, the confusion, and the chaos. So it allows you to be more you in every moment of your life. And it's www.lumari, lumari.com/sacred space.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Yeah, I believe in sacred space. I definitely believe in sacred space. I want to experience your sacred space. I encourage people to open sacred space every morning and go out there and write the 4 directions and all this and do shielding and all this stuff. So I can't wait to experience yours. I know it's going to feel yummy. Yummy.
Thank you.
So I'm really excited also to be part of your master series that's coming out.
I am so excited that you are. I've created this master series so that we could really address and work with and share different disciplines and different ways of looking at leveraging your sacred gifts. And when I say leverage, I mean you lift them up. You use the fulcrum of the divine to lift your sacred gifts so you can share them in the world. And so Carrie is going to be there, and there's other amazing guests who are going to be in the event. And it's like all different ways of looking at it so that we can be really fulfilled. I mean, part of why I'm here, and it's the big vision, I know it. I want every person on this planet and those who are on this planet without bodies to be completely fulfilled in their sacred ways. So that every moment and every breath, they are fulfilled, they are shining, they are sending their glory, and we who are seeing it are delighting in it.
Oh, I love that.
So,
I want to delight in people's glory. That's awesome.
yes.
Yeah. So how can people participate in that? Is that a limited time thing, or is that an evergreen kind of thing?
Well, it may end up being evergreen, but right now it will start April 8th and run a few days. I don't know, 7 to 10 days. More and more people keep on showing up that I didn't expect, and I'm happy to have them.
Awesome.
So,
Well,
and I know,
this one's planning to go out on April 7th. So that means tomorrow. Y'all need to sign up now because it's going to start tomorrow, actually, by the time this broadcast comes out on the 7th. So that means it's going to come out, the Master Series, on the 8th.
and you wait until you hear my interview with Carrie, because it is a blast.
It is a blast. We're going to get back-to-back Carrie and Lumari.
I know.
Yay!
It's gonna be so much fun. Yes. Wisdom keepers, wisdom dancers. It's just spreading that and sharing that illuminated joy is how we play.
It's wonderful. And the link to that is in the show notes. So you'll be able to click that link and head over and sign up for the wisdom series about how to claim your sacred gifts and shine them out in the world. And you'll hear from all these wonderful people. It's going to be great. So definitely sign up for that. You got to sign up now, because that way you start getting it tomorrow.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Lumari.
Oh,
I can't wait till our next chance to interact together and create something beautiful. It's been wonderful. So much fun.
me too.
Awesome.
Me too. An honor, a blessing, a joy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me and sharing this sacred time with me. I'm just delighted. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I always give people kisses on the way out, but before I do, I want to remind everybody, be sure to like and comment. Be sure to like the podcast on iTunes. That helps us to reach more people. Be sure to comment or ask a question on any episode, whether you find it on iTunes or YouTube or soulnectar.show. Leave us a comment. If you want to comment on some stuff on the feed, on the Facebook feed for Soul Nectar Show, leave us a comment. We will get back to you. We will respond to you. And we want to hear what you think, what revelations you had, and what did you learn from this broadcast. And so we're loving to hear from that. Make sure to do that. And now, as I promised, here come your kisses. Lumari, you can join me if you want. I always blow kisses. Here they come. Yay! All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.